We're live, Chase. Holy crap.
What a night, man.
Holy crap. BYU 91, Kansas 57. Thoughts?
Holy crap. Like, what are we doing? This is nuts. Right off the bat, obviously, huge win. One of the best, not like best as terms of like, wasn't an awesome game, but like one of just the top to bottom. They smoked a team. It was Kansas.
Yep.
In the Marriott Center, the crowd, all in all, just including every single experience and like from a BYU perspective, obviously, one of the best BYU games played in this building. It's also coming down to like a big time of the season, right, where BYU's really like put themselves in the tournament, barring a huge collapse, knock on wood. So incredible night, atmosphere, game. It was awesome.
It was awesome. Before the game, we put out the clip and I said it on the show. This was the most excited I was for a game basically since the Jimmer days.
Some people were like, really? Even I said that during the podcast.
It's different when you play a blue blood, and you could feel the energy in here tonight was just flat out different. Shout out everybody that came to the game. Shout out everybody in the student section tonight. The energy was unbelievable. That was one of the best sporting events I've covered, I've been to. Just covering it from a BYU perspective, just this doesn't happen. This just flat out does not happen anywhere else. Duke doesn't blow out Kansas like this. Carolina doesn't blow out Kansas like this. Kentucky did it once, like 10 years ago. This does not happen. But BYU goes out and beats this team by 34 points. Crazy.
It's just to tell you, like, to add to that point, it doesn't happen. It's the tied for the worst loss in the Bill Self era. I have some stats here. BYU is the only team in the last 7 seasons to lead Kansas by more than 35. That got up to 40 at one point.
Yep.
This is the worst loss in Kansas program history as a ranked team versus an unranked opponent. This just doesn't happen to Kansas all that often. The last 2 years, obviously, we've seen that they've struggled. But just put this into perspective, Carter. This was the preseason ranked number 1.
Yep.
They were that ranking for weeks and weeks. They beat Duke on a neutral floor, and everyone was like, this team is different. They're special. Now, they've struggled, and we've seen them in the past month or so and what's been going on with them, and they have things that they're working out. But just to put it all into perspective, what they just did to this Kansas team is downright historic for both Kansas and BYU, and it's just so fun, man. It's just a Tuesday in February, and we got to watch BYU beat Kansas by 34 points.
And on top of all that, BYU showed everyone tonight, I don't care about quad 1 wins, quality wins. No. If you watch the game tonight, BYU made a statement to the committee, a statement to college basketball fans nationwide, that this undoubtedly is an NCAA tournament team. They proved that tonight. They still have work to do, in my opinion. I still think they need to go 3-2 to feel comfortable. You still don't want to play in Dayton. We've done that song and dance over and over. We're not going to repeat it right now. But tonight, they made a statement. And I think, the starters were in pretty late, Chase.
You and I were turning each other like, what is going on here? A little.
Every point matters.
Yeah. In college basketball, when metrics are so big and things like Ken Pom plays such a big role in the committee's process, every point, every bucket, every shot, attempt, defensive possession, all of it counts.
Yep.
It goes towards those analytics that people covet in this sport. And so, Kevin Young's like, all right, I'm keeping everyone in for a dang long time, man.
Yep. But I want to talk about this. Let's start off from the Kansas side of things, honestly. Bill Self in the press conference, I mean, he's been here before. He knows what he's doing in these pressers. It's nothing new to Bill Self or whatever. He handled it beautifully. But one thing he mentioned, and he was talking about, he goes, they made tougher shots tonight. We missed open shots. My issue with that, Chase, is that was BYU's game plan. We talked about it on the preview show. If you missed it, Kansas, normally 3 out of 5 of their starters are just absolute non-factors outside of 10, 15 feet. And then all of a sudden they're starting Bedinga tonight. And now you have 4 out of 5 players you do not have to guard outside the free throw line. Outside the paint, you're going, great shot. The defense is thrilled with that. And he's going, it's a good thing. We had a lot of open shots tonight. We just didn't knock them down, and BYU did. And I understand coach speak, press conference, whatever. But if I'm a Kansas fan, I'm terrified because, look, in modern basketball, you have to be able to shoot the ball. That's basketball 101. Yep. It was two contrasting styles, and that's why I felt so confident in BYU coming into tonight. When you watch Kansas, you watch the film, you go, I don't see it. I don't get it. And you watch, this is a bit of an extreme, but even when you watch the Utah game on Saturday, you go, this team beat Duke. This team beat Michigan State. And you look at the game tonight, just another example of that. They're a team, the body language was terrible tonight. And maybe that was just a credit to BYU with them knocking down shots and bringing the energy early, because the second that ball tipped off, BYU was running with its head on fire.
Yeah, and look, Kansas isn't what they were a few months ago, and they're struggling. But I think most of tonight was more about just BYU dominating than it was Kansas playing a very bad game, because BYU forced them to play this bad game that we just saw them, like you're talking about. It was obvious right at the front. BYU was like, okay, we're going to put Mawit Mag on Zeke Mayo, the only guy who's a threat on the court right now to shoot anything outside of 10 feet. And then we're just going to switch everything else and just play tough defense, right? And stay in front of guys and do it. And that's what worked. And then on the offensive end, it was grab, rebound, grab the ball, push it, get down the court. And granted, BYU did shoot well from three tonight, but it's because they were getting good looks. It's because they were in tempo. It's because they were up in Adam as far as it goes, in transition and getting those shots up. So it was BYU's game plan that really won the day. And you got to credit the Cougars defense, because I thought they played amazing. And the thing is, like, they didn't even have to do anything special. It wasn't it wasn't locking up guys one-on-one like crazy, or just there was no junk defense just thrown in there. We saw zone like once or twice, right? It was just go under the screens. All right. If it's anyone other than Mayo, pretty much.
Yep.
And just stay in front of guys and box out your man when they shoot, and let's get it and go. That's all they had to do. And if you're Kansas, this isn't a Kansas pod, but if you're Kansas, you're like hecka concerned right now, because if that's people can watch this BYU tape and be like, okay, that's how you beat Kansas.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a real formula right there, because you look at a guy like AJ Storr and Rylan Griffin, and they've just flat out not performed to where they're getting paid to be. That's matter of the fact. And Zeke Mayo's been solid this year, but is he that star guy? Is he that guy that can take them to a Final Four contender? I don't necessarily know, but we didn't see it tonight, that's for sure. But let's, on the BYU side of things, man, everybody in that building deserves so much credit tonight. But one thing that really I was very surprised by, and I didn't necessarily anticipate coming into tonight, is BYU's physicality has just gone up a whole nother level in these past 3 games, because you look at them in January, they were a soft team. There's no doubt about that.
That was our biggest complaint.
They were getting bullied. Yeah. And now they're bullying Kansas. They're bullying Kansas State. I mean, they're bullying these much more physical, quote unquote, people think they're more physical, and they're coming out saying, no, we're not getting messed with.
Yeah. It's been a big stretch. This season's been a bunch of runs, right? They had that beginning of conference where they lost 4 out of 5, right? Then they rattle off 3 in a row. Then they lose a couple in a row. Now they're back to the 3-win streak. And, I think Kevin Young said after the presser, he was like, these last 3 games has been our best stuff. Our days, practices, everything has been good. He talks about stacking days all the time. And it starts with the attitude and effort, and then the physicality. It all stems from there. BYU shoots better when they're physical and they have energy. BYU plays defense better. BYU doesn't turn the ball over as much. Everything else falls into place, and it was that way with Kansas tonight. And look, Kansas traveling a lot there at altitude, and it's a tough road trip for anyone, and they leave 0-2, but BYU took advantage of it, and Rob Start was not going to back down. It's also like, it's good to have a game to get up for, because it was Kansas and because they had the prowess behind them of the name and everything, even though they're not at their best right now. This isn't like a historic Kansas team by any means, but just having the fact that you got to play Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks in Provo, even though it was a Tuesday night, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, everyone brought the energy. Crowd, players, coaches included. It's just getting up for these games. Same with Kansas State, right? Hottest team in college basketball. What are we going to do to them? They got up for it. So if BYU can continue to just now, when you play West Virginia at home, when you have to go to play Arizona State on a random, Tuesday, can you bring that same energy? It looks like they figured it out. It looks like they can. And I think they're nearing the end here. They're seeing who they're becoming and what kind of team they can be when they play this way. And so it just gets easier from here if you're them.
Yeah, and a month ago, we wouldn't say this, but you can say it now. They have an offensive identity. They know who they are now. And if you want to be a successful team in college basketball and be a team that can make a run in March, you have to know who you are and you have to have that offensive identity. And they figured out how they can play their best. And now the beauty of it is they figured out a way where they can get 10, 11 guys involved in a game now, where that doesn't ruin someone's rhythm or everybody's rhythm that night. Everybody can get involved. Everybody's playing hard. And now they can use that to their advantage, especially at a home game and altitude. That's going to help a lot. But even in March, when you're playing, a game every other day, that's going to help a lot. Even in the Big 12 tournament, back-to-back days, having that depth is huge. So I just came away just so impressed and honestly disgusted with Kansas, to be honest. How would you not be disgusted with Kansas? The effort, they quit on the court, Chase. It was pathetic what I watched out there on the court by Kansas. Credit to BYU. BYU did unbelievable things. But once again, if you're a Kansas fan, that is disgusting to watch, and it was just flat out pathetic. And I think every Kansas fan, every Kansas coach, and every Kansas player would agree.
Yeah, would be tough to be a Kansas fan right now. And we don't have to dissect Kansas, but it's you and I were saying before, like I'm all in on Kansas next season because I think they have one of the very best coaches of all time in Bill Self. And I think it's time for them to move on from these players that have been here for a few years now. I think the style just isn't it anymore. And in college basketball, man, like we already said this, you can't be running out 4 guys who are zero threat. You can't be playing 2 bigs and then KJ Adams at 3, who plays like a big. He's just an undersized power forward. It's not going to work.
You should have seen our reaction up at press row when we saw the starting lineup, like 10, 15 minutes before the game starts. You click on it and you go, wait. They're running out 4 guys who cannot shoot outside of 10 feet. This played perfectly into BYU's game. And Kevin Young even talked about it. He goes, yeah, they switched up their lineup and, and you saw Spencer Litton on Twitter. They were thrilled letting them shoot. You could sag off. I mean, you could sit there. You could have 4 guys making a merry-go-round around the paint, just starting to box out, let them shoot wide open threes.
It's true. And we said it in the preview, right? This is Kansas' weakness is they take the least amount in the Big 12 and they just aren't a good shooting team. And college basketball's evolved. All of basketball's evolved.
Yep.
From freaking peewee up to the pros. Like, you have to shoot.
But and honestly, for Kansas, I really do think it's still a Hunter Dickinson problem, because for him to be effective, the ball has to be in his hands quite a bit, and it stalls the offense. It doesn't get people involved as much. And on the defensive end, the reason they played Bedinga tonight is because they have to cover up for Hunter Dickinson just getting exposed constantly in pick and roll sets. And even with Bedinga, BYU goes, all right, we'll just bring Trevin Nell to have a little other back screen on this pick and roll. And it was just barbecue chicken all night.
It really was. And that's credit to BYU for a lot of scouting. The coaches, they had it on lock. And I'm not saying this is credit to them, but I think a lot of people saw that coming when you looked at this Kansas lineup, and in the first 2 minutes you kind of got the vibe of this game. You started to realize, okay, BYU's gonna do something here. And
with the energy BYU came out with, the way they set the tone and the crowd tonight, Kansas was just not in it. The body language was out of it from the second the ball went up in the air.
Long road trip, and then all of a sudden you're down 20. It's hard to find it.
Let's answer some chats.
Yeah, let's do it. Something you said earlier reminded me of a chat here from our good guy, good friend Jack. But first, Nathan was first. He says, Nathan Hot Takes here says, Richie Saunders will be in Bill Self's nightmares tonight. Saunders is the best player in the country. Very hot.
Very hot.
And then if Richie doesn't have fans, I'm dead. And then he says underneath, this is my coldest take. And I think that's pretty hot there, Nathan.
About Richie?
Yeah, he said that. He's like,
Richie.
this is my coolest take. But
Yeah,
big
no.
Richie fan. I'm a big Richie fan. Richie's dang awesome, dude. Like
Unbelievable.
It was pretty fun scrolling some Kansas Twitter spots and hearing them be like, why are we not guarding 15? Like, he makes half the threes he takes, and like all this, like, people are so scared of Richie, and it's so wild to me, and I'm so happy that this is the case. But man, 2 years ago, you would have been like, he's awesome, energizer bunny glue guy. I never saw this for him in his future.
No.
The offensive power he's become is no one saw it coming, and it's awesome for him.
What a decision by Richie to turn down SEC, Kentucky, a coach he's used to, and Mark Pope, and saying, I'm going to take a chance with this guy, Kevin Young, stay at BYU. And honestly, he took a bet on himself, and it's paying off huge dividends because, look, he's going to get NBA looks now. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up testing the waters after the season. I think he should, if we're being honest. Go test the waters, get some grades back, come back and play with AJ DeBanza and get on the national scene next season. Yeah. A lot of exciting stuff, and I never saw this with Richie Saunders, to be honest. I thought he was a backdoor cutter, catch and shoot three guy, and he's just taking over games.
Yeah, you see Richie, and especially 2 years ago, he's worked on his shot. But like 2 years ago, when he started getting serious minutes for BYU, he'd shoot it, and he had a decent percentage, but you were like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah, right? it's a different shot.
And to today, it's still unique, but man, the fundamentals are there. And Kevin Young said, he's like, I think he is the quickest release in the entire country.
He did say that.
And the things he's doing is really special. So shout out Richie. I'm sure we'll talk more about BYU players tonight. Jack Carpenter, our guy, Jack. We should get like a nickname for him, like over the backboard Jack, over the back Jack.
No, that's too mean.
No, it's too mean.
Sorry. He got avenged tonight with the half court shot.
Someone, watched a little too much of his tape. Says, I'm a huge college lacrosse guy. Stick with me. Notre Dame won back-to-back titles, rotating 3 midfield lines. Unheard of, but effective with full buy-in. BYU rotating 11 may seem unconventional, but with buy-in, it's incredibly fun to watch.
Absolutely, 100%. And like I've said, most title teams have, we're not talking BYU to win the national title, maybe, but 10, 11 guys usually doesn't win in March, and maybe this is different.
Maybe it is. I really am liking what I'm seeing. Like, I'm never too – there's sometimes when you see a certain matchup out there and you're like, oh, wait, that's not what – but then someone's usually getting subbed in pretty quick after you see that. But all these lineups, and even sometimes when you're like, oh, we'll see how this one goes, if they can win these minutes, and then it's like all of a sudden they're winning those minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's back to, okay, I like what I see from everyone. And the versatility with Jaeger at point and Dallin, like you just have 2 and sometimes in some positions 3 deep of everything. Like your point guard, you feel solid about both those guys. Your 5s, you have 3 guys that really are versatile and do different things, right? And then all your wings you have. Trevin was great tonight. Obviously, Richie, right? Dawson does a lot of good things for you. Mag is doing amazing things for you. And so you just feel so good deep. So Jack's right. And it is unconventional. We say it all the time that like you like, oh, you only should have like 7 guys in college basketball. Maybe that narrative's changing here with this BYU team. Nathan's back with some more hot takes. I don't know if these are hot, but he put fire in front of them. So let's read them. We'll figure out. He said Jaeger didn't have the prettiest game, but he was vital for breaking down Kansas's defense. I think you're right. There were some times that he was really probing for his shot. I think he wanted to maybe look to score a little bit more, and he just wasn't finding the right angles and wasn't getting past guys. So I think he made good decisions and instead finding guys who were open, running the action, and being smart with the ball. Did still have 2 turnovers tonight. I think they were late, though. They were only had like 4 for the first like 30 minutes of this game. And then things got a little out of hand when they were up 40 and whatever. So we're not going to fault them for that. But yeah, again, Jaeger doesn't do the most pretty things on the stat sheet every game, but his impact is, we've said it a million times, it's something you can't record.
Yeah, and Kansas clearly scouted him very hard, and that's why they made the change at the starting lineup, because they go, look, if Hunter Dickinson's one-on-one with this dude in a pick and roll, we are toast. And look, it kind of hindered Jaeger a little bit, but then he, instead of just lobbing it up to Keba Keita, he just would find Trevin Nell or Mawit Mag in the corner with some elite passes.
Really good. I mean, he just continues to impress us every game. Nathan says our coaching staff can pick apart the weaknesses in teams as good as anyone, but only once we have a good amount of film on them. I suspect slow start but upward trending teams might be in our future for many years to come. And then he says, in quotations, or not quotations, parentheses, I'm not upset.
I might have to reread that one. I might need you to reread that one for me.
Okay. He's just saying the coaching staff, he thinks they can do a really good job picking people apart, but he says he thinks they need film first. And he was saying maybe in the future, BYU's teams will start the season slow and then pick up towards the end. Thoughts on that?
I don't hate it. Next season will be a real test of that because I think we're going to see a much tougher non-conference next year. And another test of that will be, I know there's still a lot of film on these teams, but when you're doing these quick turnarounds come March in the Big 12 tournament, let's say they win on Wednesday at the Big 12 tournament, they got to play Thursday. I'm curious to see how they come out. They did well against NC State and San Diego when they had to play back-to-back days, but let's be honest, that's NC State. They're not I think they're 17th right now in the ACC, so nothing to brag about there.
Yeah, I think that the theory's there. I think for this year particularly, though, like everything was new. Coaching staff, every guy was new. Yeah. Every dude was being pulled from this place, mostly from the pros, right? The only guy who stayed on staff was Nate Austin.
Yeah.
Right. And so just figuring out how to scout, how you want to implement your plans, what those look like, everything was brand new to everyone. And so I think a working theory right now is just like, hey, these guys needed to settle in. Took a few months, especially conference play, started off a little rough. I think they found their groove now. I think everyone's comfortable. Everyone knows the plan. Everyone knows the vibes. Everyone knows what's expected now. And maybe that's like where it's settled in. So next season, we'll see. You know, they'll play much tougher, like Karter said. Like the first 3 weeks of the season are going to be like, unlike anything BYU's ever seen with some of the guys they're going to be playing and things they're going to be doing, and the national attention and everything like that. So we'll see what they come on next year. But this year, it's safe to say that they found their groove and they figured it out. This is the team that we've expected to see. Now, they played really good tonight, but like over the last 3 games, if you averaged all those games, I think that's who BYU is.
The average would just be Kansas State.
Pretty much, right? Because you squeak by West Virginia, but still a great game
and then
place. And then
you made
Kansas off of Kansas.
Yeah, you made Kansas look like Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah, in Kansas State game, don't forget, Carter, like they didn't shoot well. They shot 26% from 3, but they played really good defense and was going to the
physical.
So I think like the Kansas State game is around how good I think this BYU team is. And so we were saying, you know, we say this like every podcast, but like there were dark moments this season where we were like, oh man, like,
I didn't after Utah, I would say majority people, I would say 90% of people would have said almost near no shot of them making it to the tournament.
I think we said like 5% and we were being optimistic.
But yeah, I think we said 5 to 10%.
Yeah, and we were like, maybe that's just a slow start. Maybe they'll figure things out. Well, they have. It was a slow start, I think. And I think if I had to choose a reason, it's just because of that. Everyone was new. Everyone was figuring it out.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about when we saw this team in the scrimmages before the season started in those close scrimmages. And you go, I remember just looking at each other going, oh, this is special. This is just flat out different. Even though this team hasn't quite had the amount of wins and success and guaranteed, you know, spot in the NCAA tournament like last year's team did, the ceiling is undoubtedly higher than last year's team with the amount of talent they have and everything. And that's what was so frustrating during that stretch of TCU Utah. And now you're seeing it where, oh, this is what this team can do.
Yeah, and it's dang fun to watch.
Last year's team, look, they were fun. They played a different kind of style of basketball. They could not have gone out and beaten Kansas by 30. They could beat Kansas, but I don't think they could have beaten them by 30.
You never know with us, your team, if they shoot
50%,
50% with the volume of threes they take, you never know. But this is different. Like the athleticism, everyone's just coming together, and this team for Karter and I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like watching them grow up because we've watched every minute and we've previewed every game. People, we do 4 podcasts a week all about this team, and so we feel like we really know them, and like seeing each guy individually, you know, contribute night in and night out, and then things that they're good at and where other people pick it up and what rotations work and who on the floor when has really been fun to see how they figured it out. Took some time, but they're there now.
Let's get to some chats.
To be optimistic, Clarkster Stu says, I take back all the negativity from earlier in the season. After tonight, we are hanging a banner in the Marriott Center in April. He says, in all seriousness, tonight we saw the ceiling of what this team and KY system could be. A or A+ to almost every player, and massive A+ to our coaching staff and game plan. We own the Jayhawks from start to finish.
Couldn't agree more.
Big shout outs to the coaching staff. Insane coaching job, scout job.
Yeah, masterclass game plan, and I mean, we kind of called it though.
Jack Carpenter says, "Just call me Jarrett Jack." We joke about his nickname.
Jarrett Jack, shout out.
We both sent our shots into the fifth row. Chris Bond says, "Is BYU peaking at the right time, or has it started a little early?"
No, this is the right time. This is okay. This isn't too early for this BYU team.
I think it's a great question, and I think that's the right answer, and I'll tell you why. You want to be peaking in February because you need to make the tournament, right? And you need to get these big wins, and you need to find good seeding, and then you want to head into March with that confidence that you've built.
Yeah.
You don't want to be peaking right in March because then it might be too late.
Yeah. And
look at Cincinnati last year.
Because people will look back, and I know I make this example quite a bit, but the 22 Carolina team, they didn't actually peak in March. It was actually happened mid to late February when they're knocking off, conference opponent after conference opponent, kind of building up their momentum, and then it culminated. Yeah, and then it culminated in Cameron Indoor at Duke, and that propelled their run, obviously. But they started peaking in February, and that's what we're starting to see with BYU. The other thing is, to that question, I think it's a great point, but you don't want to peak in January. And we've seen a lot of teams this year where they look amazing in January. You don't want to peak. You want to be peaking right now towards the end of the season, because this momentum can carry that long. It's tough sometimes to carry that momentum from early December all the way to March.
Absolutely. And this was the toughest stretch of your schedule. So this quite literally is the perfect time.
Yeah, Saturday ends the toughest stretch of your schedule. There's a chance they go 4-0 in that stretch.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Great question, Chris. Jack Carpenter's back. He says, incredibly impressed with Dallin Hall. Talk about a team-first guy. I think he saw your DMs, Jack.
I think he saw your DMs, Jack.
He's embraced a lesser role, but has made a huge impact this year. Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely, and it was impressive. I tweeted this out at halftime, where obviously he didn't have the scoring performance he did last year now in Fieldhouse, but his impact was the exact same of him finding guys, getting guys open. And one thing I love about the mix between Yegor and Dallin is that, look, Yegor, his ability, his size, his vision is unparalleled to anybody else in college basketball, in my opinion. But when Dallin comes in, Dallin can bring that veteran experience and that maturity of, he's just stronger than Yegor, and he can go toe-to-toe with some of these guys who are even taller than him. But like we talked about, he's got that stockier build a little bit. When he can drive and penetrate, he can push guys off their defense, and all of a sudden he's looking at easy layups. And having that mix of him and Yegor is really special and really is tough to defend if you're a team.
Absolutely. Carter, 10 points for Dallin Hall tonight, 10 points, 8 assists.
And all those points came in the second half.
Yeah, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. The underrated part of Dallin Hall's game is his defense. We saw it last game against Kansas State, the way he stood up in front of Coleman Hawkins, and he's embraced also the role of sometimes look down. You got to take their best guy, which you got to take their ball handler. You got to play the point, and he's embraced that as well and done a good job.
Speaking of defense, and I'm kind of pissed that we didn't start off with this, to be honest. Once again, Kay Bakeda setting the tone from the beginning with this defense. He is a monster. He's almost playing that Jazz Rudy there's probably a lot of Jazz fans listening, where Donovan Mitchell plays a little bit lazier defense and leads him into Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert can swat it away. Kay Bakeda coming in, playing that help defense and swatting these shots off. He is a physical presence dudes are scared of when they come into the paint. And there's a real difference when him and Foose are off the court together, because then all of a sudden teams are like, okay, we're going to start going in more. Luckily, Foose has that physicality and that, low center of strength where he can push guys off their spots like he did with Dickinson tonight. But the underrated part for me with this BYU run is their defense has been locked in.
Yeah, and that was the problem for the longest time. Where we were like, they're talented offensively. The defense needed to figure it out. They just get smoked on ball.
And then they get into bad situations and they start fouling, like we saw at the last 7 minutes of the Arizona game.
Yep.
Kevin Young said it in the press conference. This is a different team than what they played against Arizona just a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. And it started with defense. Man, that lineup, when you have Bakeda, anchoring down the 5, you have Mawit just sticking him on glue to the best player. Not to mention Richie Saunders, who in his own right is an incredible defender, taking the wing.
Yep.
Jaeger with his length at the top for point. And then, put in who you want. Trevor Nell, who starts. Dallin Hall even gets in there, plays solid defense, right? It's just really fun to watch. And man, the defense has sparked everything else. Like, they get the stops. They get this. BYU had, make sure I get this right, they had 14 steals tonight.
Yeah.
14 steals, people. That's crazy.
Kansas had 15 turnovers, and 14 of them were BYU steals.
BYU's forcing 14 turnovers. None of those are Kansas mistakes.
Yeah, and the other thing to BYU's credit as well is they didn't foul tonight.
Not at all.
Clean defense.
I think, Kansas only shot
5 free
throws and made 2. Clean defense. Also, basketball's so much better when we're not.
Oh, they let them play tonight. Even Dickinson said that in the presser. He was like, "Look, I kind of loved how they officiated the game tonight because they let us play tonight."
Yeah, it was smooth. The TV timeouts were spread apart, and it actually felt like good time for breaks. Awesome college basketball game. Awesome what we officiated. Just saying. But yeah, BYU's defense has been the real spark to this run. The offense is flashy and they're doing awesome as well, but it's been the defense.
And especially tonight too, because when they force Kansas, who's not a great 3-point shooting team, obviously, force them to shoot and settle for threes, then you're going to likely get long rebounds. And then that just is so much easier to get out into transition and not let Kansas get into their half-court defense. And we saw it tonight.
Absolutely. Chris Bond responded to Jack, who was talking about Dallin Hall.
Yep.
He says, Jack, that's why I appreciate Kevin Young over Mark Pope. We got some Pope talk. Pope was so stubborn about his rotation and would not deviate from that. That's what cost them the first game of the tournament last year. Young understands matchups perfectly.
I agree.
It is really interesting to see. We talk about some infamous games from last season, right? Trevor Nell hits like 1,000,000 threes, doesn't play, things like that. Whereas Kevin Young's very open to just being like, I got to find the best 5 guys in the court right now. I got to put them on there.
My favorite thing from last year, and look, it's last season, so who cares anymore? But my favorite thing was like how Pope would do the cute song and dance of bringing Jackson off the bench as a 6-man or whatever. But then BYU would go out to a slow start, and it would be like a minute into the game, a minute 30 into the game, and he would still, no matter what, be stubborn and wait until the under 16 timeout to bring Jackson in. You're like, what are you doing? Like, quit doing the song and dance. Just bring him in now. He's your best player on this roster at the moment.
Yeah,
I think that was last year, so who cares?
It was last year, and this year it's been really interesting. Like the last just 3 games has totally unlocked Bobskovich and Trey Stewart to come in, and do their own roles in any given time, and they're typically around the same time. But man, it looked like they were doing offense defense at the end of the first half. Where most coaches are like, whatever, just like hit there's a minute left. He was like, all right, go, like Trey Stewart in back in, Jaeger back out, and then like just like he's not afraid to do it. So I think it's a great point.
Real quick, before we answer some more chats, let's take a quick break and we'll be back right after this. Chase, let's answer some chats.
Yeah, this is from at LJ77785. Sometimes the live chat glitches, so if your name's like your display name on Twitter's up, it won't show it to me, so sorry. I'll just call you LJ. Incredible win tonight. I was leaving the arena. I saw a little kid walking out with his dad. He had a huge smile on his face. He just said, wow. He's a fan for life, no doubt. It is the games like these that like trap you as a fan. And you're like, so for some people it ruins their life, because you become a, dare I say, a Carolina fan. You become a Knicks fan, or you become a Cowboys fan, and it ruins your life. But not for BYU tonight.
And this is a program defining win for a first year coaching staff as well.
Absolutely. He continues, what was this the best home win of the last 15 years? How does it compare to the Gonzaga San Diego State wins at the Marriott?
Better. This is better.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa. It's better than beating that Gonzaga game that we're all thinking of with Yoli Childs and TJ Haws.
Yeah, it's better for me.
You think so?
You beat the Kansas Jayhawks, the Bill Self Kansas Jayhawks, by 34 points in your own building. That's better to me.
That's really hot, Carter, and I disagree respectfully.
I would rank.
Let's get a vote in the chat. Hey,
yeah, start putting in the chat.
One's if you think that this is better than the Gonzaga win in 2019, and two's if you think that Gonzaga win was better than this one tonight.
Because I just don't. I'll be honest. I don't think WCC games mattered as much.
Gonzaga was ranked first. That was senior night, and like
I understand it was awesome.
Was ranked as well, and they were heading towards like a really good March Madness seed that ended up getting. So I guess it was 2020.
Yeah, it was 2020. Don't like that year.
Bad news.
Bad year.
2020.
Yeah, they're close.
That's crazy because if Kansas was better, if this was the Kansas from 3 months ago, then I think there's a really strong case for it. But this can't. They're not going to be ranked next week, and we're going to kind of be like looking at this Kansas game as like, oh, that Kansas team kind of sucked, but this game was awesome.
I still think it's different when you beat a blue blood by 34 points. That's just flat. This just doesn't happen.
It's true, but that Gonzaga game and some of those
Duke, Carolina, Kentucky do not lose by 34 points unless it's to each other.
It's true, but those games, Carter,
like the Gonzaga BYU game was more fun. Don't get me wrong, but because it was a closer game and everything. But look, let's be honest, man. It was the WCC.
What about the San Diego State Jimmer days when it was like?
Oh no, that's way above this.
Okay.
Jimmer's above that. That was ridiculous.
When San Diego State was like ranked third, BYU ranked like sixth, and they'd have these insane matchups.
That was different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 1-1.
So you think you obviously the gameplay like Gonzaga ranked first, those aspects are better. But you're saying because it's Kansas, because it's a blue blood, because you beat them by 34 points, it's better than that.
Yep, 100%.
I respect that take. I don't know if I still agree with it.
Because I think when people look back, they're going to go, wow, BYU beat Kansas by 34 points in the Marriott Center.
I know, but what if we look back? Like, if you beat North Carolina this year by 30, people wouldn't look at it the same as they did in,
Yeah, but this North Carolina team's awful. Like, this Kansas team's going dancing. This Kansas team, if they have a decent run to the end of the season, they're a 4-5 seed.
That's true. They're not. Yeah, they're not.
Like Carolina is going to have to decline a CBI invite at this point.
There'll be NIT. Get your NIT tickets to see the Tar Heels now. Jack Carpenter says, "I watch." Oh, by the way, only one person voted in the chat. You all are awesome for that. Just kidding. I love you guys. But Nathan says 2, so he voted for mine. So Nathan Hot Takes is on my side. But if you still want to if you want to agree with Carter, say it in the chat. Jack Carpenter says, I watched a gross amount of Nuggets basketball. Could be us, Chase, but you a Celtics fan, bro. It's a long story, Jack. I'll tell it to you sometime, but I am a Celtics fan.
He's a Celtics fan. He's a dirty Celtics fan from Colorado.
I'm not dirty. A
Boston sports fan, not from Boston. That's dirty stuff.
Dirty water.
I'm a Hornets fan. That's
dirty.
Yeah, that's grit and grind.
That is Hard Knocks.
That is jail time.
And I watch Christian Braun play and think Richie Saunders could be like that. What do y'all think his NBA upside is?
NBA upside. That's tough.
He's a better shooter than Christian Brown. Is that what is actually? You think he's a better? What?
I'm trying to do an NBA comp right now off the top of my head.
NBA's different, man. It's different.
It's really hard not to say Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson's a really dang good shooter, man.
That's what I'm saying. But I think Richie's he's a little more. I think he'd be a better defender and he's got a better motor, but I don't think he's got the shot of Duncan Robinson.
I'm trying to think because, listen, let's just keep it a buck. All right, you comp it a white guy and you think of white guys in the NBA. All right, let's look at white guys in the NBA.
Richie and
you got Austin Reeves. All right, you got
RJ Barrett.
You've got Alex Caruso, and you kind of run out of white guys at that point. I see him as being almost like a Pat Connaughton. Is that a good comp? Because Connaughton could shoot, but he also was a threat going to the basket and playing defense, being tough on the boards, things like that. Because I think Richie's more than just like a Duncan Robinson, just pure shooting. I don't think Richie's ever going to win a 3-point contest. Like I think Duncan Robinson is at that point. But he does so many other things that make it so well. So Christian Brown, honestly, like is kind of a good comp because he goes to the basket, plays tough defense, and he can shoot. But I think Richie's a little bit of a step above in shooting wise. So Pat Connaughton is around the spot I'd put him at.
All right, I love it. Any more chats?
Yeah, I mean we got people all over us. We got it's Luther see this thing's glitchy, but LJ7785. If BYU goes 3-2 in the last 5 games, wins one game in the Big 12 tournament against a team like Cincinnati or ASU, and then loses the next day, what seed will we get in the tournament? I love this question, and I'll tell you what, right now, that's best case scenario.
Let me read this question one more time.
So BYU goes 3-2. They win their first Big 12 tournament game, then lose. I think that is best case scenario, Karter, because that gets you
a double-digit seed. And guess what? In this tournament, if you want to make a run in March, you want to be a double-digit seed. So let's break this down real quick, Chase.
Yeah.
So if BYU ends up in the 8-9 game, we all know BYU can't play on Sundays, correct? So they're going to have to get slotted in the Thursday, Saturday games. You look at, okay, what sites are going to be, what sites are going to be playing on Thursday? It's Lexington, Wichita, Providence, and Denver. Denver would be ideal for BYU. I don't think it happens unless they get lucky. But so in the if they end up in that 8-9 game, that means you got to be in the same region as the 1 seeds who want their geographical preference. So therefore, Auburn and Alabama are going to be the ones picking Lexington, Kentucky out of those. So if you're in the 8-9 game, and if you win that first round game, then you got to play Auburn or Alabama. Ideally, you'd like to avoid that, Chase, because look, 8-9 games, 7-10, there's not a big difference between 7 through 10 in this tournament, for me to be honest.
There really isn't, Karter. And just for reference, guys, let's just show you some of these 7 seeds BYU could be playing.
Yeah.
Let me get stats department on this real quick.
I wish I had the chat up on here. It's not showing up.
It's not showing up at all?
No, it doesn't show up for me on the iPad for some reason.
And heaven forbid, like you have to, like you're avoiding the 1 seed as the 10 seed here, right? So if you're BYU right now as a 10 seed, let's read these 7 seeds out. You could play St. Mary's in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Could be good. Could shape
St. Mary's.
Some memories could be coming back to you.
Clemson.
Memphis.
In Louisville, right?
Mississippi State's in Lunardi's 7 spot now.
They're getting moved up,
and then Louisville, Clemson's up there around there. Mississippi State just beat Texas A&M.
Yeah, they're going to be a 6 or a 5 seed.
Getting a huge bump right there, but that's what we're talking about, guys. So I think what situation Luther laid out right there, 3-2. You win your first Big 12 tournament game, then you lose it. I think you're a 10 seed. You avoid Dayton. You don't have to be an 11 seed.
That's the key. Like, look, you get to the 8-9 game, anything can happen in March, whatever. You don't want to go to Dayton.
Don't go Dayton.
Because if you go 3-2 the rest of the season, regardless of what happens in Kansas City, 3-2 this year, you're not playing in Dayton.
Not going to Dayton.
2-3, you might not be playing in Dayton.
I don't think so, but you're probably an 11 seed.
Yeah, but you would like to avoid that scenario.
Yeah, so this is, the philosophy is pretty simple, guys. Like, we feel good about BYU going up against any of those like middle of the pack, like 6 through 9. Like, I don't think there's a huge disparity. There's some hidden dark horse in there who's going to like make a Sweet 16, Elite 8 run, and so be it. Sometimes BYU runs into that. Look at UCLA, stuff like that, whatever. But it's a wash. It's who you're playing in the second round is what we're talking about. So as a 10 seed, you avoid all the 1 seeds. Who is maybe the most top-heavy 1-seeded tournament we've seen in forever.
Since like 2008.
Yeah, like all of them scary. Obviously, Auburn, Bama. I mean, Duke is amazing. And
Florida.
Then Florida in there. So you don't want to see those cats in the second round. You want to see Texas A&M and a couple of these other guys that you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better about that. And the path to the Sweet 16 just becomes so much easier. I don't care who you're playing in the first round because I'm not Memphis or if it ends up being like UConn, it's not a big deal to me.
But I'll tell you what, BYU wins Saturday, they're a lock.
Oh yeah, and now you're really flirting with that 9, maybe even 8 seed.
Yeah, if BYU wins Saturday, we start talking potential UConn versus BYU in the first round.
That would be sight to behold.
I like BYU in that
Tin
matchup.
Cup Man on the chat says, does 11-9 get BYU in the NCAA tournament? I'm figuring he's talking about conference record.
I'll go check.
He says we aren't beating U of A or Iowa State. Arizona State won't be easy on the road. And that Utah game looks
So that's 3-2.
more difficult now. Tin Cup man, I got good news for you. Yes, 11-9 in conference, aka 3-2 the rest of the season gets you into the tournament. Your tournament team.
Yeah, and I honestly think 2-3 and a win in Kansas City on Wednesday gets you in. If we're being honest, I think I think you might avoid Dayton at that point too.
I agree. Luther Responsi says those 7 seeds are actually pretty tough. I think half of them I'm like Clemson, Louisville. I'd be like, oh snap, that's a bad matchup. I'm really not afraid of Memphis, St. Mary's.
I'm afraid of Memphis.
All right,
that ceiling. Memphis has a high ceiling, low floor.
Fair enough. The St. Mary's game would be pretty poetic.
Yeah, I think BYU fans would be very excited seeing St. Mary's on their bracket.
They're a little scarred too, though. I mean, St. Mary's tortured BYU for years.
That's fair.
They kind of had their BYU's number.
Yeah, I can't. Going back to this, I know we're flip flopping all over the place on this, but I still can't get over Kansas lost by 34 points tonight here in the Marriott Center.
Well, speaking of St. Mary's, I saw a great tweet tonight. I retweeted it. And if you're listening and you tweeted it, I can't remember who it was, but check out my retweets, y'all. And basically, it was tweet like 2 years ago, our biggest game of the season was played in this gym, and it was the St. Mary's gym of like 3,000 people, and that's an incredible point. Speaking of St. Mary's, like this would like the biggest games of the year was when you just played St. Mary's twice, Gonzaga twice. Now you get to play, I mean, Kansas, Houston, Texas, all these teams, and you get to smoke Kansas by 34. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, I just that's just unbelievable, and
it brought out the best crowd of the season by far.
And on a Tuesday night too. It wasn't a Saturday afternoon tip off. Easy time. It was a Tuesday night, and it was. You could feel it immediately.
It wasn't. I almost like feel a little bit bad. It never reached its full potential because the game just wasn't close enough.
And Self talked about that because they asked him in the press conference. He was like, "Hey, what was the environment like at the Marriott Center tonight?" And he goes, "Look, it's great. It's clean. It's classy. Whatever." He was like, "But we didn't get to see the full potential of it because we sucked."
That's exactly what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
So yeah, I'm like, this building had like, there were some great moments and great.
They were ready to explode from the.
It would have been awesome.
Yeah, if Dallin Hall would have hit a 3, this building would have erupted.
Yeah, we did
in the first half.
A couple there. Yeah, I mean, and if this was a close game and someone hits a big 3 or something like that, it would have been one of those moments you don't forget where you get chills all over yourself. So, but still, like regardless, even though they won by 34, I think like fans stayed. Like even when Kaba has that huge block with like 2 minutes left, it was loud and rowdy, man. People just love to see it, and that's kind of the thing point Karter was talking about, like with this Kansas game, how it's just so much bigger than WCC, even against Gonzaga, even when they're ranked number 1. Although that crowd was awesome too. If you were there, I'm not digging on you. I wasn't serving a mission, but whatever. Awesome environment here tonight.
This person commented outside of the live chat on just the actual the broadcast thing or whatever. At Scuttlebutt1 is Catchings in the doghouse. Seems like he might be.
Seems like he.
You want to attack this question?
I mean, I'll try my best. I don't know. Well, maybe the first thing. I have no idea what's going on with Cannon Catchings and everything. The body. Let me get the body language doctor on it. Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, body language. The body language wasn't great, but to be honest, if I was in that same position, I played 2 minutes tonight in a blowout win, I'd be pretty upset too, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know why. I really don't know why when Elijah Crawford and Max Triplett are getting minutes, you don't just put Cannon Catchings in. Maybe sometimes coaches feel like, oh, I don't want to put him in the then because then he feels like he's one of the deep bench guys, but at the same time, it was like you're up by 40 at one point. You can probably just let him play. What's the funniest part to me? Not the funniest, because nothing about this was funny. I feel for Cannon, man. I think we've been in that situation ourselves in one point in life, whether it's sports or whatever. His best game was that Baylor game, and he didn't miss a shot. And then he just didn't play the last like 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, including
overtime. And then hasn't played more than like 6 minutes since then.
Yeah. I don't know.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I don't know if it's a defensive thing or a confidence thing. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, well, when asked, Kevin Young was just like, he's like, no, someone's like, the person asked, is he available? As if like maybe that's the reason why. He's like, he's available. He was fine. He's just he mentioned he's like there were some defensive things that got on him early or something like that, and so that's why that's kind of reasoning. He didn't give a lot of explanation.
Yeah, and that clip's on the church ball thing. You can hear Kevin Young's exact response. So, anyhow, any more chats?
It's a great question. Let me see here. Shout out to all 1.1.
Yeah, shout out everyone in the chat.
Shout out to all you. No more chats as of now.
All right, but anyhow, we can finish up here in a second. But going forward, Chase, let me ask you a couple hypotheticals.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Now that this team looks like it's looking pretty good that they're going to go to March Madness, is this season a success just by making the tournament?
It's a really good question because expectations have shifted. At one point, we were like, this is a second weekend team. Then we were like, are they going to go to New York for the NIT Final Four?
Hinkle Fieldhouse this year.
And now we're like, and we were like, oh, they can go to the tournament. Oh, they're on the bubble. Oh, can they avoid Dayton? Oh, they're avoiding Dayton. What can they do? And now we're like, okay, they're going to the NCAA tournament, most likely, knock on wood. And before, right, and the whole thing about bringing Kevin Young in and the recruits and the money you're putting up, it was like, you have to win in March. But right now, and 2 months ago, it was just like, holy crap, just go to the tournament, please. Like, just make it there. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'd call this season a success from my end. Even if they just go, if they lose in the first round, I'd still think it's a success because I think you figured a lot of things out here. And success looks like improvement, it looks like progress, and it looks like the coaching staff figuring it out. It looks like these players getting valuable reps and building good relationships to come back next year, sending Diego Dem into the draft. That looks like success to me. Next season, let's talk about winning a few games in the big dance. So I'm going to say it was a success. Some people may disagree with me on that.
I would just say it's for sure a success in my eyes because especially, like you said, the way it's gone and having this kind of momentum closing the season, especially if they can, let's say they win a game or, they make a little run in the Big 12 tournament, go to the semifinals, and they lose in the first round. That's decent momentum closing the season. And then, because this offseason is going to be bananas. Let's just get ready for it. There's going to be portal news. There's going to be guys coming in and out. Obviously, that happens to every college basketball team. And then the whole AJ DeBancis stuff all around it coming into next season, the expectations around it. And like you said, just seeing this coaching staff do what they've done in their first year. This being a first-year coaching staff, I think, is why this is a success. Maybe on paper, this team had been together a little bit longer. You'd say, nah, they probably need to make it to the second weekend or something like that. But since it's a first-year staff, I think it's a home run season, to be honest, as long as you make the tournament.
Yeah, and it's for that point. First-year staff, and you were figuring things out. And it did look bleak there, but they've shown resilience. And anyone who thought that maybe Kevin Young wasn't the guy during that stretch, there was talks, tweets, whatever. Those can get deleted. You speak rashly when you're emotional. I understand, guys. You now understand who he is and what he can do for you.
Let me ask you this, another hypothetical.
Yep.
People can answer this in the chat as well. Would you rather have a Big 12 title or a second weekend run? So you lose in the Sweet 16 or you win the Big 12 tournament?
That's a really good question. Big 12 title has more like, it's obviously a bigger accolade, and you can hang your hat on it for a long time. No one's like, oh, we made the Sweet 16. It's like, okay, cool. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, unless you're like St. Peter's.
Right. Unless you were never in a million years expected to go there. But Big 12 title is like something you can be like,
that's a banner.
Oh, we won the Big 12 title. It's going up in the rafters. That's something you have a trophy for and you can go back to forever. At the same time, it's more fun to go on a stretch in March.
We're winning 2 games in March is better than 3 or 4 in the Big 12 tournament.
I mean, it's just more fun. It's more exciting, and you're like, holy crap! Like, we can do it. Like, it's anyone's. It's so fun.
What gets remembered more, conference champions or Sweet 16 appearances?
Can you name the Big 10 conference champion last year?
Purdue.
2 years.
No, wait.
No, Purdue lost.
Purdue lost in the final, didn't they? Yeah.
See, exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly. We all assumed it was Purdue.
Could you name the entire Sweet 16 though from last year?
Absolutely not. But I could name some awesome people who did it. NC State.
Duke, Houston, Purdue, Connecticut, Tennessee. We could go through that.
Right. You remember the Cinderella runs, and especially if it's your team.
And Carolina lost to some team, Yeah. Arizona, Clemson.
NC State will remember that forever, and they made a Final Four run if you told me BYU's going to do that. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what people in the chat think, although no one's saying anything. What would you rather have, Big 12 title or a Sweet 16 appearance this year? Are you talking about this year?
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm taking personally. Man, you just think like, how many times can you win a Big 12 title, and then you just feel like there's more opportunities.
When was the last time BYU won a conference tournament?
It hasn't been since the Mountain West days. They didn't win the WCC
exactly
the entire time. It hasn't been such a jimmer. It'd be cool. It'd be dang cool, man. I mean, that's a tough one. What did you say? What would you say?
I think I would go. I think I'd go Big 12, to be honest. Just slight edge. Having a trophy, having a ring, something to put up in the rafters, I think that does actually matter to me.
That's fair enough. And I think it'd probably lean that way too. Because I just feel like winning 4 games in a row is harder than winning 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
So you have a better shot of making a run in March.
Absolutely.
Again, Big 12 tournaments are a little more rare.
Going forward, what do you think about Saturday? Early thoughts against Arizona?
Early thoughts Saturday. Look, it's a tough matchup for BYU. I think Arizona played BYU the best all season. Oh, maybe Houston, but I think that this team's better than when they played at Houston. That beatdown.
Yeah.
I think Arizona. This is easily the toughest game left. And they just match up so well. They have guards that can kill you, and I think Kevin Young was even asked. He said they're the most physical offensive team we've played, and that really rattled BYU, especially when it came down to crunch time. And Arizona got fouled a million times and hit their free throws and ended up pulling that one away here. So it's tough. But it's also the kind of game where you, dare I say, punt.
No, you don't punt. No, that's stupid. You don't punt.
You don't punt for 10 minutes, but then you're like,
no, you don't punt in this game.
You don't need to win it.
So the analytics, I think, have Arizona as an 8-point favorite in this game coming up.
A lot of points.
That is a lot of points. But
that would be the biggest spread against BYU all season, right?
Houston was a double-digit spread.
Was it?
Yeah, but Arizona, I'm going to the game Saturday.
That's right.
Very excited for that. If BYU wins Saturday, I don't think people realize also what this does to the narrative around them, because they are going to be a very sexy pick come March Madness. You're going to see Selection Sunday shows, and they're going to go, oh, Kevin Young and Yegor Demon, top NBA draft pick. I got the Cougars going to the second weekend, upsetting this team in the second round, blah, blah, blah.
True.
So if they win Saturday, the national attention is going to be all in on the Cougars.
You said they probably end up being ranked in the AP poll if they win Saturday.
I would think so, right?
2 ranked wins in a row. That would make 4 wins in a row.
Especially a road win at Arizona and then a 34-point win against 23 Kansas. You'd be close, but either way, I mean, being ranked in the AP poll doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It's funny. Yeah, some people be like, why are we an 8 seed? We're ranked, 12th.
AP,
that's not how it works.
No, AP poll doesn't matter. Just get some quality wins or whatever. But I'm very excited for Saturday. I can't wait to get down to Tucson. Beautiful weather down there, too. It's going to be like 70.
You do some golfing?
No.
Not bringing the gloves?
No, I'll just be chilling by a pool, most likely.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to spend a weekend.
I'm going spring training, too. I'm not a baseball guy, though, but I was like, I'm down there.
Whose are you going to? I mean, there's like a million teams down there.
No clue. There's just like a million teams.
You haven't planned yet? You're just going to
I'm just going to find the cheapest tickets around where I'm at and then just be like, all right, I'll go.
All right. You're getting
yeah, I'm not going to like
Rockies
Dodgers.
tickets.
Yeah, I'm going to Rockies Athletics split squad. It's going to be like whatever the G League.
It's like the double. It's not even triple. It's double A players.
It's single A Athletics versus double A Rockies. Can't wait. It'll be nice weather, so I can't. I'm excited about that.
It's still a good time. It's a vibe, though.
Yeah. Anything else from tonight, man? Just a special night, and this is one BYU fans will never forget.
It's one I'll never forget. It was crazy, and it's fun, and this is college basketball in a nutshell. BYU, one night you're wondering what the heck's going on. The sky was falling a little bit, and we were calling West Virginia a must-win. Now, all of a sudden, we're feeling really good about them and their chances, and they showed up and defended home court. But what an awesome game. What an awesome sport. What an awesome team we got to watch here. Right? They keep you on your toes, but lots of talent here. Showed tonight. I think this is the best game they played all season.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, you beat Kansas by 34 points, and you did it on both ends of the floor. I'd think absolutely, and we've said that multiple times this season. Is this the best game? Is this the best game? We didn't say that after Kansas State, but it was a really impressive win against the Wildcats and everything too. But yeah, most impressive win for BYU this season. It was a statement win, and now BYU is, you're not going to see them on Lenardi's bubble watch, at least for the moment, at least for another couple weeks, if things go sideways.
Yeah, don't get alarmed if you're a little out of the loop. If you see his PDF where you don't see BYU's name at all, that's a good thing. That means they're
in the 10-11 spot. They're not being considered. So I love it. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, just shout out everyone who joined us for over an hour.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome, and we really appreciate y'all chatting what's up, and hope y'all are enjoying the season as much as we are. So go Cougs.
I know, absolutely appreciate you guys hopping in the chat. Great season. We will also be doing a podcast. I'm not sure it'll be live after the Arizona game. We'll see what the situation is down.
Karter will be there.
I'll be there, so I'll have to. We'll do the press conference and everything, and then we'll see what the recording situation is like after the game. But anyhow, make sure to subscribe. Church Ball Pod on Apple, Spotify, Field of 68 Podcast Network on YouTube, Field of 68 After Dark, all their great stuff with Goodman, Hummel, Dosser, all that stuff. Go check them out. Subscribe to all that good stuff. And at Church Ball Pod on everything, all social media, at Chase_Rogers0, at Karter BA on social media. Make sure to follow at Church Ball Pod on everything one more time. We'll see you guys on Thursday for an Arizona preview.